What happens when one of Hollywood's most private actors sits down for what should have been a normal morning show interview and the host decides to push every possible limit? The result is pure chaos. What you are about to hear is one of the most uncomfortable moments ever caught on live television. This is the story of how a routine promotional appearance slowly spiraled into a heated confrontation that ended with Robert Pattinson walking off the set of Good Morning America, leaving Michael Strahan and millions of viewers completely shocked. Before we get into all of this, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment telling me which celebrity interview disaster you want covered next. Because trust me, this one raises the bar incredibly high. The interview begins harmlessly enough. Robert Pattinson is there to promote his newest film, a dark psychological thriller that has already been getting serious awards buzz. Michael Strahan opens the segment with his usual charm, flashing that familiar smile as he welcomes Pattinson to the show. Robert appears calm, maybe a bit reserved like he usually is, but nothing in those opening moments suggests the storm that's coming. Strahan starts with an easy question about the movie, asking what attracted Pattinson to such a heavy and complex role. Pattinson answers thoughtfully, talking about the character's inner conflict and the mental preparation required for such an intense performance. He's well-spoken, engaged, and professional, giving exactly the kind of response any studio or publicist would be happy with. Strahan nods along, and for a brief moment, it feels like this will be just another smooth, forgettable morning show interview. Then Strahan changes direction. He leans in slightly, his tone shifting just enough to signal he's heading somewhere else. He brings up Pattinson's reputation for being extremely private, presenting it as curiosity rather than criticism. He says something like, "You've always been very guarded, Robert, and I respect that. But fans really want to know the real you. Is there a reason you keep such strong walls around your personal life?" Pattinson's face barely changes, but there's a subtle flicker of something underneath, maybe irritation, maybe tired acceptance. He answers politely, explaining that he believes his work should speak for itself and that he's never understood the public obsession with actors' private lives. His tone stays calm, even friendly, and he offers a small smile, but the boundary is clear. He's drawing a line. Strahan doesn't retreat. Instead, he presses further, and that's when the atmosphere in the studio begins to shift. He mentions Pattinson's famous past relationship, the one tabloids obsessed over for years, and asks whether that experience influenced his need for privacy now. It's framed as a reflective question, but it directly ignores the boundary Pattinson just set. Pattinson's jaw tightens. He pauses for a second longer than feels comfortable on live TV, and when he finally speaks, the warmth is gone from his voice. He says, "I thought we were here to talk about the film, Michael. I'm not interested in digging through my personal past for entertainment." The audience, which had been quietly reacting up to this point, suddenly goes almost silent. Strahan laughs it off, but the laugh feels forced. He says he's just trying to give viewers what they want, that people feel closer to celebrities when they see the human side. Pattinson responds coolly, "The human side? You mean the part that sells magazines and drives clicks?" "I'm right here, Michael. This is the human side. If that's not enough, I don't know what is." The tension is now impossible to ignore. You can sense it in the awkward camera movements, in the way the audience shifts uncomfortably in their seats. Strahan attempts to reset, steering the conversation back to the movie and asking about Pattinson's preparation for an especially intense scene. But whatever ease existed earlier is completely gone. Pattinson answers, but his replies are short now, clipped and distant. He's clearly done engaging beyond the bare minimum. Sensing the strain, Strahan tries humor, joking about how serious Pattinson always looks in photos and asking if he ever relaxes and has fun. The joke falls flat. Pattinson looks at him, clearly deciding whether to ignore it or confront it directly. He chooses confrontation. "Is that really what this is about?" he asks. "Whether I smile enough in pictures?" "Do you ask every guest these questions, or just the ones you think won't push back?" Strahan's smile wavers. He tries to respond, likely aiming to lighten the mood again, but Pattinson cuts him off. "I came here to talk about a film I'm genuinely proud of," he says. "A film a lot of people worked very hard on. But it feels like you're more interested in turning this into a spectacle." That word, spectacle, hangs heavily in the air. Strahan looks briefly thrown, something rare for someone so experienced on live television. He insists he respects Pattinson's work and is sincerely interested in his process, but his tone has turned defensive, and Pattinson isn't convinced. Pattinson leans back, his posture showing a mix of frustration and resignation, like he's already checked out. "I understand this is your job," he says. "You need good TV. But I'm not a trained animal, and I'm not going to sit here while you poke at me trying to get a viral moment." Strahan stiffens slightly. "I'm just doing my job, Robert," he replies. "If you didn't want questions, maybe you shouldn't have come on a talk show." An audible gasp ripples through the studio. Everyone knows that line crossed a boundary. Pattinson's eyes narrow, real anger finally breaking through his calm exterior. "There it is," he says. "Now I'm the problem because I won't play along. This is exactly why I avoid these interviews." Strahan tries to soften his tone, saying he didn't mean it that way, that he just wants an honest conversation. Pattinson shakes his head. "A real conversation needs mutual respect," he says. "This feels more like an interrogation. And honestly, I don't think you're interested in my answers. You're interested in getting a reaction." Before Strahan can respond, Pattinson reaches up and slowly unclips his microphone. The action is deliberate and final. He stands, and the camera zooms in just in time to capture the disbelief on Strahan's face. Strahan raises his hands, trying to calm the situation. "Hold on, Robert. Let's breathe. Sit down. We can move forward." But Pattinson is already standing. He places the microphone carefully on his chair, the slow movement making the statement even stronger. "No," he says. "I don't think we can move on. You've shown exactly what kind of interview this was meant to be." Strahan stands as well now, panic starting to slip through his professional mask. "I apologize if I crossed a line," he says. "That wasn't my intention. Please, sit down. Let's talk about the film." Pattinson lets out a short, humorless laugh. "Now you want to talk about the film?" he replies. "After spending 10 minutes digging into my personal life and questioning why I'm not entertaining enough for you." That's ironic. The co-hosts, who have been quietly sitting off to the side, exchange nervous looks. One of them tries to jump in, suggesting everyone take a moment to cool down. Pattinson barely acknowledges them. His attention is locked on Strahan. Strahan steps closer, lowering his voice. "This is live television," he says. "We can't just stop. Help me out here." That's when Pattinson finally snaps. "Help you out?" he says. "You've made me uncomfortable this entire time, ignored clear boundaries, and now you want me to rescue you from the consequences? That's unbelievable." Strahan's frustration surfaces. "I'm sorry you feel that way," he says, "but you're being dramatic. I asked a few personal questions. That's how talk shows work. If you can't handle that, maybe you're in the wrong business." The studio goes completely silent. Pattinson stares at him, then speaks quietly but sharply. "I've been acting for over 15 years, he says. "I've opened myself up emotionally for my work, for art and storytelling, not so a talk show host can mine my personal life for ratings." Strahan fires back. "What trauma?" "I asked about a relationship you talked about before. It's public." Pattinson shakes his head. "Just because something is public doesn't make it fair," he says. "Just because I spoke about it once doesn't give you permission to drag it up again." Strahan throws up his hands. "So you get to control the questions on my show?" Pattinson responds calmly, "I'm not your content. I'm a person who agreed to talk about my work, and you turned it into a circus." A producer's voice is faintly heard saying they need to cut to commercial, but Strahan pushes on. "Every guest gets these questions," he says. Pattinson replies, "Then maybe the system is broken." "Congratulations, you just proved my point." Strahan warns him he's making a mistake. Pattinson picks up his jacket. "I care more about how this feels than how it looks," he says. Strahan begs him to sit. Pattinson pauses, then says, "You probably don't even realize how disrespectful this was." When Strahan asks if he's really walking out, Pattinson nods. Yes, walking away from disrespect isn't unprofessional, it's self-respect. He turns towards the exit, then looks back at the camera. "I'm sorry viewers had to see this," he says. "But maybe it starts a conversation about boundaries." Strahan tries to speak, but Pattinson raises his hand. "I'm done." He walks off. Strahan stands frozen, stunned. Finally, he apologizes to viewers, taking partial responsibility but still sounding defensive. The show continues awkwardly, but the damage is done. What makes this moment so powerful is what it reveals about celebrity culture. Yes, personal questions are common, but boundaries still matter. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was a real conflict, raw and unscripted, playing out live. And that's why people are still talking about it.